Everyone, my name is Lily. I'm a social worker for Child Protective Services, also known as Child Welfare Services or the Department of Family, Children and Family Services, the CSF. I always get confused with that one because that's not the one we use where I work. But I've been making some videos just random rambling about my mental health treatment and also, commenting on some things from a social work perspective, giving like little advice that might help you if needed, if you're in a situation where you ever have to deal with the system. Today, I figured I would try to do a why I became a social worker because one of the things that I'm struggling a lot, which the problem I have with mental health is I have depression and anxiety, which, we all get to some degree at some point in our lives. But my work being super stressful makes it a lot more difficult to deal with. So I can get in a very good space, and then in a year or two, I feel like the weight of the world is on me. So part of what I've been trying to figure out is if I want to leave my job or if I want to go back, try to be firmer with my boundaries. So I figure this will make a good video. I am also trying to get more of a flow with the recording. I've never done this before. I have no problem talking in front of people, but talking to myself basically, because all I see is my own face reflecting back in the camera. It's a little different. But anyways, I was actually born in Mexico. And in Mexico, high school is not mandatory, and it's kind of like a little bit like what college is here. So we usually go into high school already with a career in mind. You have to pick like a major or a specialization. It's more like a technical. Some of them are like technical schools, electrician, construction, architectural type of thing, and it could be something where you can get a job right after high school with that education, or go ahead and specialize in college. So I never really had like what I wanted to be when I grew up. When I was a kid, like I remember being around 5 and saying I really wanted to be a waitress or a stripper because they had money, which I don't have the body shape to be either, actually, because I don't want to be on my feet all day. I'm heavy. But I had no idea. So I was like, maybe I'm okay being a teacher. I'm kind of a nerd. Or maybe I could do some, like not like a doctor, but something helping. Or an attorney. Ooh, I wanted to be an attorney for a while, but money. Also in Mexico, there's no like student loans. You either have the money to pay for school or you don't. So I was been a nerd my whole life, and I had pretty good grades. I was a good student, and I applied for a school that was a little different. I didn't actually have to pick a specialization until my last year. So that school, like I said, it was like a little better school than the rest. It was known for either having rich people that knew somebody to get them in, or really smart kids that got in on their own. So I was one of the smart kids, which meant I wasn't a very popular kid. But anyways, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that I still had no idea by my last year what I wanted to do. So we had like the choices that we had. It was like, if you want to be a doctor type, a doctor, scientist or something, you go into this. If you want to be somebody that works with financial stuff, you go into this other side. And there was social work, and I had no idea at all what social work meant. And it was just like, if you want to be a teacher or a social worker, which it was just like helping poor people, or a therapist, anything in that sort of field. I actually never considered being a therapist. I didn't, that was not something like I grew up around or knew about, or, mental health is very like taboo. Over there, you don't talk about feelings or sex or anything other than like the weather and religion is the only things that were acceptable. So so yeah, that's what I decided. And then when I finished, I was like, this is good. I'll be a social worker. But by that time, I had like the one boyfriend in high school, and the only school in the city that had social work was 2 blocks from his house. So no, nobody wants to commit to go to a school for years a block from their ex's house. So that's what made me come to the US. My sister was already living over here. Again, it was like a drive between my sister in one country and my parents in the other. And so I came and stayed with my sister. I went to community college with financial aid. So I was like, oh, awesome. I'm poor. I get everything free. So I did my 2 years in community college. Funny story, the ex I was trying to get away from, he came to the same school I did because he thought I was going to be going to the school next by his house. Um, that was hilarious when I ran into him like the first week there. Like, seriously, you move to a different country and your ex is right there with you. Anyways, so I did my 2 years. I transferred to university. So the last year of social work, you have to do an internship where you go out into the field, work for free, 20 hours a week. They offered this program that actually only accepted 10 to 15 people for an undergraduate degree to specialize in child welfare. So it was, like 30 something people getting their masters and like 10 of us getting our bachelors. So that you make a contract to work with the county in child welfare anywhere in the state, anywhere in the state for 2 years. So we got help for the last year, and we had to pay back 2 years in work obligation. So we didn't actually have to pay back money. We just had to work for their company, basically. And this is like a state program, so anywhere in the state would be okay as long as it was, child welfare. So when I studied, I was like, this is cool. I had no idea that child welfare existed, that it was a thing. I knew, like, some people had good parents, some people had not so great parents. I didn't know there was people that did anything about it. So I kind of like fell in love with it. Like, it just felt right. Anyways, I learned a lot. I really liked it. When I graduated, I graduated in 2008. So for those of you in the US, there was a recession or whatever they called it going on. There was a hiring freeze. Nobody was hiring when I graduated. It was like the first year in the history of the program that people didn't get hired right when they graduated. So they actually did hire a few people with a master's. It took a few months. They only took a few people out of 30 something. I think it's 35 people that get in. They only hired like 5 because they had to plug in vacancies, but they weren't really hiring like they usually do. Every time we graduate, people go in because that's like our contract. So we ended up having to apply anywhere in California. There was people that had to fly for hours. I don't know, like California is a very long state. So they go from one place to the other just to apply for a job. I remember one of my classmates had to take her mom with her because she wasn't old enough to rent a car. And she didn't get the job. So we were under a lot of pressure because if we didn't get a job, we had to pay back the money. I was the first one that actually did end up getting hired in another county, so I had to move about 6 hours away. Then, less than a year later, I came back as soon as the job opened. When the job opened back up, it had been more than a year that they hadn't been regularly hiring people. So everything was backlogged like crazy. Like imagine right now with the pandemic that everything shut down, and when it opened, you're dealing with a year worth of stuff to catch up on. And that was pretty much what it was. So it was supposed to be 12 weeks of training, and then some of the days you go into the office to do shadowing. On my shadowing days, I got one shadowing day And then it was like, hey, you see that stack over there? Those are the cases you're going to be getting when you come full time, so you can start reading them now. That's what it was. People, the guy that I was replacing had already been retired. So it wasn't like a, hey, this is what's going on here. This is what you're going to need to do. It was just like, hey, somebody help me figure out these notes. And I spent like a whole year going like to people to ask them like, hey, can you, what do you do when you do this? And they're like, oh, who was the worker? Oh, this guy. Oh, ooh, I got that for you. And that's how I became a social worker. So I know, super convoluted story. I love it. I mean, I I like that I'm good at it. It's it's difficult. The people that I work with don't want to work with me. They hate me. They're traumatized. They're abused. They're abusing their kids themselves. The kids are you know, they distrust everybody. It's very hard. Um, if I don't do my job right, people can die. Kids can die. I've had people commit suicide. I had a parent commit suicide. I think just one that I can remember. I had one of the babies in my caseload be shaken and severely injured. Um, I've dealt with cases of sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect through parents' mental health issues, through drug use, being exposed to drugs, being sold for drug money, sexual exploitation. I've dealt with all of that. I have to work with the rapists the same that I would with a parent that just made a bad choice one day. It's the exact type of treatment I have to give people. So it takes special kind of people to do this. On top of that, there is mountains and mountains of paperwork. And you know how people tell you get a bonus every time you remove a kid from their parents? I haven't seen a single freaking bonus in over 13, 14 years. I don't know how long it's been because it's been like I said, I moved here, moved there, came back. Not a single bonus. Most people don't have to remove a child from their parents for years. Some never do, depending on what program you get in. I've been, my whole time, I've been in the program that helps the parents get their kids back or make sure the kids stay home. It's stable. I had to remove a child within my first 2 weeks. I think about 2 weeks in, because the parent that had already gotten the kid back ended up screwing up. So I've learned a lot. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, but I struggle. And my struggle is that I give too much. I say I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm gonna quit right at 5. I'm gonna leave, but I'm here on my computer typing. I get up at 2 in the morning to type. I calling people 6, 7 p.m., returning calls, answering emails, never taking vacations, working until you can't take it no more. I've had to go on stress leave several times because I can't keep up. And the difference, I'm pretty sure I've been burned out. It's difficult to differentiate between my own depression problems and burnout from the job. The main difference between me and other workers is that I'm honest about it. And I work on it. A lot of people drink. A lot of people take it out on their own kids and spouses. I know I've taken it out on my spouse many, many times. I don't know how he stuck with me through the worst of it. But I like to open up and speak up about it so that other people don't have to suffer in silence. Because that's what I do. And that's why I love what I do. Even though it's tough. And now I have to make the decision of, do I want my health or do I want my purpose? That's a tough one. So, such an uplifting video, right? So whenever people tell me, oh, I want to be a social worker too, I tell them, don't. Run. Or be a social worker, but not in child welfare. A lot of foster parent children want to want to become social workers. I've had a few tell me that, oh, my daughter wants to be a social worker. Tell them, don't do it. Mm-mm. You can work with foster children in many different ways. You can help them in many different ways. I mean, absolutely, you be a social worker if you just know what you're getting yourself into. Okay. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.